was interesting seeing Martin O'Neill reappearing this morning back in his old day job on the radio. And I don't think he's done the manager any favours either, really. I mean, not intentionally. I mean, you know what Martin O'Neill's like. He's always good intentions, and he was trying to be diplomatic. But revealing that he only had a 15-minute conversation with the new man, having stayed around an extra day to kind of welcome him out in the building, which he didn't have to do. He's already on overtime at the club by about 3 weeks. To then only have 15 minutes with him, I thought was a concerning thing to say. And then also him saying he would have stuck around for the rest of the season didn't do the new guy any favours as well, because there's now if an emergency break glass with Martin O'Neill behind it. So that's not helped. Not really helped. He's been honest and he's been sincere, but I don't think that helped the new man either. But in terms of speaking to Martin, I think that's a wasted opportunity for Wilfried Nancy. And I appreciate he's his own man. Listen, managers have got egos like the size of Africa. I mean, they're huge. I mean, they're continental egos. So they do believe themselves, and they won't. That's what makes them managers, right? But I still think it would have been helpful to sit down for a couple of hours over a coffee and go through what's been happening. Why are you playing this way? Because Martin O'Neill played that way not because he wanted to, because he had to. So what has been going on? Who can I trust? At that point, he walks out that hour coffee meeting with Martin O'Neill. Then he picks the 4 or 5 most influential players in the dressing room. Callum McGregor, Casper Schmeichel, Liam Scales, Kieran Tierney, Carter Vickers and Johnson, who are kicking about and injured, and you sit them down and you make them your best pals. You make them your best pals. Yeah, you pick their brains and you talk to them and you figure out what's going on. These are the leadership group of the club who were successful, have been successful for years. Sit them down, talk to them, find out what's going right and what's going wrong, because you'll get honest answers back from them. Who can I trust? Get those guys in right away. Unfortunately for Wilfried Nancy, he's having these conversations on the pitch when all hell's breaking loose. Kieran Tierney coming pulled over, Callum McGregor pulled over. And I'm sure he's talking to them behind the scenes as well, right? But it's not great when you're having to do these things on the pitch. So I think he's made it difficult for himself by not doing these things. And he's up against it now. But no,
how do you feel, Mick, about the stuff? Because this is, and I'm a little bit worried that it develops into a pattern, because this doesn't play well either in terms of press conferences and messaging, public messaging. It's 3 or 4 in the first 3 games. Now he's come out, and I'm not saying he's throwing the players under a bus, but he kind of is.
No, I think it's a lot side.
But he's talking about the players lacking belief. This is a Celtic side that's swept the board up here for years. They lack belief. They lack the confidence to keep hold of the ball. They started going long, and that was almost, to me, an implied reference to them not doing as he was telling them to do in the second half. They started going long. They started taking long throws. It's all pushed onto the players, and there's not one single bit yet of humility from him to say, guys, I might have got that wrong. I probably didn't help matters today. Well, it's all on the players, Mick. All the messaging, the subliminal messaging is all directed at the players. My system's great. They're just not doing it the way I want them to do.
Which is strange, because I was there on Friday, the pre-match, and he kind of said things like, maybe I rushed it, and after talking to the players, and I thought that sounded to me like he was taking a step back.
And he threw in the word pragmatism into that press conference as well, and I thought, oh, good, pennies dropping. Yeah, and they see a team sheet, think, well, he has listened and thinking that's the way to go about it. Because this is a team that's played a certain way under 2 managers, by and large, pretty much the same way under Postecoglou and under Ben Rodgers. Wee tweaks here and there. Rodgers kind of continued with the kind of the inverted fullback thing with Greg Taylor, because it worked so well under Ange. So it was pretty much the same way of playing for 4 seasons, 4.5, 5 seasons. What it is, 4.5 seasons. So to change it so radically, so quickly at a time, if it had been June, 4 weeks of pre-season, that's fair enough. You can get time to nail it down and get the players in during the window to fit your system, but not when you parachute in the first week in December when you're up against 3 biggest games of the season. It's just too difficult, and it's proved to be too difficult. So there have to be a step back, because as I say, listen, we know this Celtic squad's lacking. It's obvious it's lacking, right? But there's still quality in that squad, and you've got to say, man for man. Well, put it this way: if Stephen Robinson was in charge of that Celtic squad, who would have won the cup final on Sunday?
So therefore, it is an issue. Listen, know the answer because we saw it.
Yeah,
we saw it with much less resources. He won the game comfortably. So there's something not quite adding up. They want myself to. They need to get through this period because the games are coming thick and fast, and the manager's put himself behind the 8 ball already, and he'll have to take a step back and look at what he's got and play a certain way. And listen, I know we're saying these guys have been through the course and won a lot. They have, but they're missing a lot of the guys who did that. A lot of big characters: Carter Vickers, Johnson, Jota. Kyogo's been sold. Ida was sold. Kuhn was sold. So that they are down to the kind of the reserve guys and that. I mean, I know someone saying last week, 8 of the guys against Hearts were in the squad last season. Yeah, in the squad, they might not have been playing every single week and been relied on every single week. So as a much weakened the team, it's been the rot set in from January. So they've lost 15 games this calendar year. They lost 2 in the whole of 2024.
That's astonishing.
This is a pattern that's been coming all season. This has been a slow-moving car crash. It's now reached the kind of end point, the buffer zone, and it's happened to be under the new manager who's maybe expedited it slightly because of his trying to make too many quick changes. And the question is now for them: how do they get out of this? How do they change it round? And it's a big question because the personnel's not changing for 3 or 4 weeks, and that's if they get a move on and get signings in the door. If there's 3 or 4 guys lined up for the first week in January, is that going to happen? Where's the evidence to suggest it will? Because it's not been happening so far. So the recruitment department is going to have to be light speed, which I haven't done for the last 2 or 3 windows. So he needs help, he needs time, and it looks like he's got neither. He also needs some leadership from the top of the club as well, because that's a guy who was unveiled on his own.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who did no CEO next to him, no chairman, no head of football operations, unveiled on his own. So nobody telling him what the vision is, what the long-term plan is. No one's saying, here's what we're going to do in January. No one's saying, listen, this guy's going to get back. No matter what happens in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, it might be bumpy, but we believe in this system. So hold on to your hats and stick with us because this guy is going to be something special, which might be the case. But nobody's saying that. Nobody is coming out and explaining that to supporters. And then they wonder why supporters are angry because they're not getting. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The manager's sitting there on his own, and he's now having to face press 3 and 4 times a week for the next 3 weeks. So people are talking about what he's saying and what he's in these press conferences, but he's the one who's having to answer all the questions. The same as Martin Neal had to answer all the questions for 6 weeks when the manager search was going on. It's not good enough. Yep. There has to be leadership from the top and backing the guy and telling people, just calm down, he'll get it right because we know why. This is why we gave him the job. We knew it was going to be a period of transition, but stick with him and it's going to be X, Y, and Z. But that's not forthcoming. So he's exposed.
But we knew that, Mick. We knew that, didn't we? The Celtic have got a chief executive who's cutting about in a cloak of invisibility. He is the invisible man. He was never going to, and you and I discussed it even the night before Nancy's presentation at Lennoxtown, and I said to you, there is no chance that Michael Nicholson will be sitting beside him at the top table. So he is on his own. The question, I think, is, Mick, now to Celtic's board, look at this. I personally believe they will feel inclined they need to back him as best they possibly can in the January transfer window, which means that you would imagine Wilfried Nancy will buy players again that will fit into his system more naturally than some of the guys that are there right now. But if you've got real reservations and doubts about whether or not this guy's here for the long haul, do you really let him go and spend a bunch of money in January designed around his philosophy and his way of playing football if you're actually thinking already we might be looking at another manager for next season?
Yeah.
Is that where Celtic are with this? And how do you get round that? How do you square that circle?